Everybody, welcome back to the Badgerland Birding Podcast, bringing you birding news and stories from the Badger State and beyond. Today, me and Ryan are here to talk about some awesome birds we're excited to see this spring, the warblers. Ryan, do you have a favorite warbler?
I think first, before we talk about that, we have to say it's Warbin time.
Oh gosh, we're really
That's
going
all
to
we have to say
launch on
now.
that note.
Yeah, we got to launch on that note because it is about to be Warbin time. Um, it's not immediately going to be Warbin time, except maybe for those people in the South, though, right?
Well, we'll get that. We should get that first yellow-rumped warbler in the state pretty soon. But yeah, in the South, they'll probably hit for. I mean, there's wintering yellow-rumped warblers in the South right now, so it's been
Oh, there's
warbing time
wintering
all
here
winter.
too.
You've had some this winter? I don't
I
think
haven't
I've
had
seen
some
one
this
this
winter,
year.
but I know a handful of them do winter here.
So really, it's warbin time year round
Sort
to
of,
some
yeah.
degree.
Yellow-rumped warblers actually, they eat juniper berries. So if there's good juniper crops, they can just hang out and eat junipers. And there's some other warbler species that can survive cold winter because they'll eat seeds as well. So like pine warblers will do that. So not every warbler is relegated to the tropics where they are going to be eating insects. Some of them can survive on other things.
I feel like they got the short end of the stick though. Other warblers in the tropics, they're like, I'm in freezing cold climate eating juniper berries.
Yeah, maybe there's less competition there though. I mean, that's kind of why they all move up here. It's because otherwise there'd be so much competition for the insects down in those areas. They got to spread out.
So speaking of the warblers, we actually just created a warbler quiz that we're releasing on our Badgerland Birding YouTube channel the day that this is getting released as well. And that was really fun to make. It has 37 different warbler songs. You can go through and see if you can listen to the song and then guess the species correctly. And then we're having people do their total in the comments. But it was really interesting to go through all of them and realize how similar they are, how distinct certain ones are. I think Northern Parula is probably one of the most distinct, that like zipper noise that they have to it. But we encourage everyone to go check that out. Let us know how you do on it. And I'm pretty pumped for the warbler season.
Well, it was funny because we were making it and we would hear somebody playing a warbler call and then be like, oh, that's one of these, right? And sometimes it was very easy and sometimes it was very challenging to the point where I was like, I don't even know. Because, like you said, some are really distinctive. Like, I think that black-throated green warbler is really distinctive. And then others, I don't even hear that much, such as Cape May warbler. Um, what others were some tricky ones? I mean, I've never heard Swainson's warbler, so that's one on the quiz that I've never even heard or seen.
Yeah, they're pretty variable, but some of them I feel sound so similar that it can be tough to tell them apart. I think Perula is distinctive, like you said, black-throated green.
Blue-winged,
Blue-winged, yeah, is pretty distinctive
golden-winged,
too. Connecticut warbler.
ovenbird.
So if you can start with some of those that are easier and then work your way into the harder ones, then if you want to go totally crazy, you can start working on the warbler chip notes, which is even harder to tell apart. But I cannot wait to go out and just go kind of down the street and just see tons of colorful different warblers. Like, 37 species in the East. That's a lot of different birds to look forward to seeing.
Yeah, and it kind of comes like a firework. It does kind of ramp up. So you start with that trickle. I don't know about everybody, but where we are, you usually get yellow rumps first, and then you get palm, orange crowned, and then that kind of kicks everything off. And it really goes in a couple of weeks only. So it'll be first warblers arrive, and then all of a sudden, boom, it feels like they're gone. And I think every year we're always talking about, oh, it wasn't a very good warbler year. So for the past few seasons of birding, I think we've kind of been like, oh, wasn't that great for warblers?
Um, well, I feel like seeing the migration when I was down in Louisiana, it always feels crazy because you can go to like Grand Isle and you'll get that huge push. And I think I'd seen more warblers there than I have anywhere else because they are just hitting the Gulf. So, it's crazy the numbers of stuff there. But depending on what makes it here, it can feel like a down year or a better year. But I feel like you've just been stalling about what your favorite warbler is. I feel like that's what this
Well,
whole
how
thing has
can
been
one
about.
pick a supreme favorite warbler
That's what
when there's
makes
so
it
many
tough.
cool, colorful ones? And I think it's hard too because you go by the rarity. Because I always enjoy seeing a Connecticut warbler because of how rare they are here. But I think my all-time favorite, probably Cerulean.
Cerulean's a good one. I mean, how can you not love a cerulean warbler?
That color scheme is just so perfect.
And we also, I feel like once our migration passes through, we have those breeding warblers in the state too that we get to check out, like the hooded warbler. So it's pretty neat, and the cerulean, pretty neat to go see those after kind of that wave of warblers comes through.
Yeah, something that's interesting about that is many warbler species just kind of pass through the US and end up in Canada to breed. So you do get the ones that are lower in terms of, north-south breeders, such as yellow-throated warbler is pretty far southern breeder. Hooded is pretty far south, Swainson's, of course. So some of them you just see during migration and they're gone. And others, if you are in a northern state or even some of the southern states, you can still find them. What's interesting too is I've been looking at a ton of the range maps for warblers for all the warbler stuff we've been doing, and a lot of them will breed north and in the Appalachian Mountains. So if you look at their breeding range, it's way up in Canada and parts of the northern United States, and then all the way down that Appalachian tract.
Well, I feel like it's kind of weird to have hoodeds breeding in Wisconsin, isn't it? Because didn't you say they're more a southern breeder?
Southern breeder, as in they'll breed in the continental U.S. states. So they
Ah,
do
gotcha.
breed in some of the states that are more central or southern United States. But if you look at range maps of some of these species, it's Canada, and they don't even make it down as a breeder. So relatively, they're a lower breeder.
And weren't you also saying you learned that a lot of them actually feed on spruce budworm, just like evening
Yes.
grosbeaks and some of those other things do, which
Yeah,
is
so we were
also
talking about that
interesting.
with Tim last week or the week before, I think.
Last
And yeah,
week, yeah.
tons of them it says that their favorite thing to eat is spruce budworm. So that spruce budworm population is apparently a big deal for these birds that are going north to breed. And I think if too many of the spruce budworms get eliminated either by insecticide or because of forests getting cleared out or something, I think it could spell some sort of disaster for a lot of these species that really rely on those to subsist during the breeding season.
And that's something I really know nothing about, the management of spruce budworm or why they do the management practices they do or whatever. But
Gotta
we
learn
get,
apparently. You
yeah, I
gotta be
guess
the
so.
spruce
I feel like
budworm
Matt
guy.
Young, our finch expert, would know a ton about spruce budworm. But anyways, you have the eastern warblers, which we're way more familiar with. But then you also have some of those cool warblers in the west. Do you have a favorite western warbler?
That's also tricky. I mean, I liked the Grace's warbler that we got to see. It's hard not to like red-faced warbler too.
Hmm.
There's some that I still haven't seen yet. So Kalima warbler is one that I don't know if you want to call that
I don't
Western
know
or
if
maybe
that's western. That's maybe more
it's in Texas, which is
Texas.
more
Yeah.
west of the Eastern warbler, so it's not an Eastern.
We're gonna need to do a range map check for that one because I don't know if it actually goes out of Texas at all.
I don't know either, but I just feel like it's a Western warbler species. Also, Townsend's is one I still haven't seen yet, but I think that my favorites are probably the Graces and the red-faced.
So the summer, according to Cornell Lab, it looks like the breeding range for Colima just juts into Texas and then they winter slightly further south.
So really
Yeah,
just
so pretty
Texas.
much it is Texas in the US.
Well, that's one we need to see sometime. We always talk about the Kalima warbler hike now.
We do. There's one that you did not mention that I think might be my favorite Western warbler.
Is it the painted red
It
start?
is indeed the painted redstart.
I know you have an obsession with painted red starts.
They're just beautiful, like incredibly colored birds. That was the one that really caught my eye when before we had ever seen one, just looking through the field guide, being saying, man, wouldn't it be cool to see one of those?
And then fascinating enough, you saw one in Wisconsin too.
Yeah, that was neat. And then I
That's
feel
a
like
strange thing.
at least when we were learning warblers, I always included the yellow-breasted chat kind of with them, even though it's not a warbler. It feels kind of like a warbler because it would come around the same time.
Well,
And
for a while, it was considered to be part of the warbler family. The
is
yellow-breasted
that what
chat
they
has
did?
moved. Yeah, they kind of just lumped it in there for a while, and now it's not anymore. So it's been all over the place.
Man, chats are weird. That's what, I love chats. They're just so quirky and
Yeah, they're
interesting.
strange. And
Yeah. How
that
can you
was a
not love a good
nemesis bird of
chat?
yours for a very long time,
Oh
actually.
yeah.
Remember, we kept trying to go to the one that was in Waukesha County and kept missing it. Everyone would always talk about how it was singing so loudly when they heard it. And yeah, eventually we got that one. We had that day. I think either me or you or both of us had to go to work that day. So we had X amount of time to go try to find a chat. And we ended up having to go farther west than we wanted, but eventually got it. That's a video that we have out there if anyone wants to see it when we first found a yellow-breasted chat. That was fun.
Yeah, that's a good one for sure. And Chats are much more common in the South, but in a lot of the times I would hear them, but it would be really hard to actually track them down and see them. But it's still cool to see whenever they do pop out. I feel like it's not as often as you would think compared to how often I would hear them in the South, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we were in New Mexico too, in Rattlesnake Springs, there were chats calling from everywhere and we could never see one.
Yeah, they're just goobers, they're little goofballs.
Yet they'll also just go on a high perch and call too, like a high open perch. So they really are inconsistent in that way,
They seem like they want to be seen when they want to be seen, but if they don't want you to see them, then you won't be able to see one.
like a squatch.
Kind of. It also reminds me of like a morning warbler. There's some of those warblers that feels more rewarding to see. I think the ones that hang out more in the grasses, like on the ground or by the water's edge. Because I remember one time when we were down looking for warblers by the stream, we had a morning warbler come through and it would just was seen for barely a second, then would dive down in the grasses. So I feel like those warblers that are a little more skulky are almost more rewarding to see than some of the ones that'll just perch up and sing.
Well, I think too, you kind of get an idea of what warblers you really want to see based on where you live and which ones are rare. So, being in a northern state, some of the warblers that are more southern breeders are the ones that are rare here. So, the yellow-throated, the hooded, the cerulean, worm eating, of course. So, these are the ones that we kind of get excited about when they show up. They're kind of the ones that are a little more rare. So, I'm sure it depends on where you are in the country. Because we experienced this too when we were talking to Rachel from California. Because whenever they find Eastern warblers out there, they go crazy for them, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then we experience that with Western warblers when they show up. So it's just a funny thing where it's all relative based on where you live, what stuff you're going to be most excited to see.
I did go when me and Nathaniel, friend of the program, were in Arizona. We did go and see that rare black and white warbler. That was at Sweetwater
Intentionally?
Wetlands. We were with Ethan Kistler, Billy, who's Ethan's wife, and then Arian Dwarshuis. And so we were birding with them. I think we were looking for Mexican ducks at Sweetwater. And then while we were there, it was like, oh, let's get the black and white warblers. So it was kind of a just happened to be there kind of deal. I don't think I would have went out to see it just for that though.
Was anybody jazzed about it there?
I feel like Ethan was the most excited about
Yeah, well, that's good. At least someone was excited about
it.
it. But that is funny because so much of birding is rarity driven. So,
hmm Yeah,
same
it's still
thing
neat to
if a
see.
hermit warbler, well, there's a hermit warbler in Texas right now. People keep reporting because it's rare. So people keep going to that cemetery to see the hermit warbler. But if you're in the West somewhere, you're not going to care that much.
Yeah. And it also reminds me of how much people care about a county list or a state list or something. For me, I'm very life list focused. If it's a bird I've never seen, I'm way more apt to go look for it than if it's something I've gotten really good looks at elsewhere. But it just seems a little crazy to be, oh, I need that for this particular county in this particular state. Or as Rob would say, for like any bird we see, it's a lifer for that exact minute.
Yes, it's a lifer for that exact minute. I think too, thinking about this, I tend to get warbler fever, where even if I've seen this stuff the year before, suddenly I just feel like I have to see it again. You want to get all the warblers that you can for some reason. So, the year before we saw a worm-eating warbler, which isn't a every year thing to see here. I'm sure that this coming year, going into it, I'll be like, yeah, I just saw one of those last year, but I know when it gets reported, I'll be like, worm-eating, gotta go find it, gotta catch them all.
It definitely does feel like that with migration in general. I feel as soon as that stuff gets reported, it's, oh, I need to go see one of those, or I haven't seen one of those since last year.
Well, it's the time of the year too where it gets crazy, where you sometimes can't see everything. So most of the winter, you can kind of plan out your trips. Okay, this stuff is being seen in the North Woods. We'll go to the North Woods, get that. Oh, this rare thing was seen. I can go get that because there's not much else to see. But then when it's springtime, it's like, oh, Western Tanager reported in this county. Oh, Townsend's Warbler reported in that county. Oh, Hudsonian Godwit in this county. And it's just coming and going all day and stuff isn't sticking. So you, to a degree, have to be in the right place at the right time to see all of the stuff during migration because you're going to get things that just pop up for a few hours or pop up for one day. And you don't have the luxury of planning trips around it. And we experience this even on a county level. One park in Milwaukee will be fantastic one day, and it'll be a different park the next day. So you go to some park and then you're wrong and you missed all of the warbler influx. So it can be tough. It's a tough time of year to see everything if you're one of those people that feels the need to see everything.
Although the best is when you're already in a location and then rare birds just keep getting reported. Like, oh, rare cinnamon teal 5 minutes away. Oh, rare, Townsend's warbler 3 minutes away. That's the best when you can just
That is
string
true.
rarities.
It's perplexing sometimes to have those situations. You'll be like, I was just in this place and now there's all this rare stuff that was seen after I left.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, but I cannot wait to get migration underway. And I think my favorite thing is just going to a place you've been throughout the different seasons and seeing how the bird activity changes. Because I just took a walk the other day to see if we had any more migrants coming in. Got a fox sparrow, which I was pretty excited about. But none of the yellow rumped warblers had come back or anything. But I know in a couple weeks from now, I'm going to go there and there's going to be different stuff to see every day, and that's just really exciting.
You kind of, though, the anticipation gets you because you're checking every single day and you're
Not
thinking this is
every
going to be the
day,
day.
just every once in a
Not
while.
every day, but oh, it's going to be the day today. Yellow rump warblers are going to come back, and it's 4 weeks, and you're wrong. And then eventually one comes back, and you're like, well, I didn't have to do this for the past 3 weeks that I looked.
Okay, it was a walk for fun. It was not an everyday, let's
Every
see the
single
yellow
day,
rumped
you're just out
warblers.
there thinking you're going to see a yellow rumped warbler.
I do remember there was one year, the first couple years we started birding, where it took me like half a year to see a yellow rumped warbler. I don't know what the deal
Embarrassing.
was. It was tough. It's a
I
tough
don't know.
time.
What's a warbler you think is underrated?
Underrated. Hmm.
And what's one you think is overrated?
Overrated. Are we basing it on color or just everything?
Whatever criteria you want to use.
All right, I gotta pull up a list here.
It's hard because I don't know what people actually think about most of the warblers
I feel
because again,
like,
it's regional differences. I think one that I think is underrated is I'll give you two. The
okay.
Magnolia warbler. That's a really
You
beautiful
think
warbler.
Magnolia is underrated? I
I
feel
think
like
it's
Magnolia
underrated.
might be properly rated.
I think it's underrated. And then another one I think is underrated is bay-breasted.
Bay breasted is pretty cool. I don't know if I'd say they're underrated.
Also, I found out that it's called bay-breasted. Bay is that color that it has that's kind of the maroon, and it's actually usually used to describe that color of horses.
Interesting, because there's also, I believe, a bay-headed tanager
Well, there you
that you can
go.
get in Costa Rica, and it also has that maroon on it. So that's good to know.
It's an actual color.
How mad would you be if I was like, Kirtland's Warbler is super overrated?
I would just question you, I think.
Um, oh, well, so this one's tough because in the South, I feel like Kentucky Warbler's underrated because I value it so much living in the North. I'm like Kentucky Warbler, that's super rare, but they're so much easier to see in the South.
That's what we were talking about, where it's all relative to where you live.
Right. So, but I feel like Kentucky is an underrated one in the South. I think another underrated one is actually the Tennessee Warbler because I feel like people think they're
Nah.
just super drab, but they actually have some cool colors with the silver and the varying kind of
You know why
olive
Tennessee
green.
warbler is not underrated is because orange crown warblers can sometimes look almost exactly like Tennessee warblers.
Yeah, but I feel like Tennessee's got a little more going on than an Orange Crown. So I feel like that's what makes it
I don't
underrated to
know.
me. Also,
Orange crowns even have an orange crown too.
black and white warbler underrated because
Yeah.
they're basically the nuthatches of the warbler world, and I feel like we don't appreciate that enough.
Interestingly, yellow-throated warblers actually act somewhat similar to black and white warblers. They'll also search around the trees like that.
I just don't see as many of them, so I always think of the black and white as the nuthatch, more nuthatch
They are
type one.
interesting. I don't
Right.
think there's any warbler that I don't value, but you definitely,
You
when you're picking
totally
through
just
palm
you
warblers,
totally just wrecked the orange crown and Tennessee warbler
I didn't say I don't value
complex.
them. I'm just saying that they're pretty similar to each other. It's kind of like saying that the Louisiana water thrush is really unique and just ignoring the fact that there's a northern water thrush floating around out there.
I'm trying to think of one that's overrated. That's a tough one.
He's going back to the Kirtland's warbler.
Oh, I can't do that. Oh, another underrated one is honestly chestnut sided. Chestnut
I
sided is
do feel like
popping
no
with
one likes
color,
chestnut-sided warblers.
but they're beautiful.
They are. They have some good colors on them. I like the ones that are uniquely colored. Do you think maybe the gray hooded warblers are actually overrated? You got the McGillivrays, you got the Nashville, the Morning, and the Connecticut.
Nah, I don't think so. I think
You
they're
know what's interesting is that Wisconsin's actually a really good place to see some of the most rare warblers, and particularly Kirtland's warbler, because I would say that's pretty much the holy grail to a lot of people of the eastern warblers, and Wisconsin's one of the few places that they actually breed.
all right. Here's my overrated one, Prothonotary warbler.
Why that?
Because I feel like people think they're super rare when if you go to the right spot, you can see a bunch of them. That's
Like
the
the
only
swamp?
reason. Yeah, like if you go to the right spot, you can find a bunch of Prothonotary warblers, but I feel like people treat them like they're like a Kirtland's warbler sometimes.
Are they the only cavity nesting warbler?
That's a good question.
Because I know they do nest in birdhouses, but I don't know if they're the only one that nests in birdhouses.
So in certain areas, they actually put up specific nest boxes for Prothonotary warblers. That'd be a sweet nest box cam to have. Watching a
Yeah.
family of Prothonotary warblers grow up. I should see if we could get that in the works.
Probably talk to John Lafitte about that in Louisiana.
That's the nature center, not the guy. I think the
The
guy
guy
has
is
passed
not
away.
around anymore.
All right, let's see.
You're just
One
looking
of
through your
only
bird list.
two cavity nesting warblers in North America.
What's the other?
It doesn't say.
Well, that's useless.
Let me see if the article expands more. The Lucy's warbler is a cavity nester.
Oh,
Yeah, bet you didn't see that coming.
I did not see that coming. I don't know nearly as much about the western warblers as the eastern. Are there
And
any
I
warblers other than the Kalima that you still need for the country,
golden
basically?
cheeked warbler.
Golden cheeked.
Um, what else is in the West that we haven't seen? Because I got Townsend's.
Yes, we get it.
Uh, let's see.
I know I still need Swainson's because I haven't spent that much time in the South during migration.
So
Um,
you need,
Rufus capped, golden
yes.
cheeked, Townsend's,
What's the one that's not actually a warbler?
the
But
olive
it's,
warbler.
yeah, that one. If you're
Did you
counting
get
that
that
in your
one?
warblers. Yeah, me and Nathaniel did in
Friend of
Arizona.
the program.
Friend of the program. I also got him his lifer red face warbler when I think he was like the most tired I've ever seen him. We were on Mount Lemon birding, and we had gone through the Rose Lake Canyon campground where we had a ton of success with warblers, and we went through it and it was completely dead. It was so quiet in there. It seemed like there weren't any warblers at all. And so then we had parked the car and we were just listening. I think he was like about to pass out because he was so tired. And then I heard a chip note or something. I'm like, what is that? And so I went out and tracked it down. I was like, Nathaniel, there's your life for red-faced warbler. He's like, oh yeah, go to
Wow, Nathaniel. He really needs to start
whenever
enjoying
I
his lifers
travel with
more.
Nathaniel, I feel like he's very tired all the time.
I feel like he's just gotten dragged to see all these lifers because of your Arizona and Texas trips.
I feel like I have to wake him up and be like, Nathaniel, look at that. He's like, nice. Field fair too. He was like passed out in the back. Nathaniel, field fair. Nice.
Wow.
Back to bed.
I wonder if he hasn't seen any of these. Like, has just been like, yeah, cool, and then doesn't even look, and then he just counts it.
No, he normally wakes up
He did
eventually.
spot that red-shouldered hawk that's in a video that is coming up somewhat soon. We
Nathaniel's a
got a nice
fantastic birder
rarity,
when awake.
which
When
is rare.
awake. All
Not awake that often.
right, we're gonna go through all the US warblers. Which one do you think one's overrated that we haven't talked about?
Um, I can probably come up with one. I'm trying to think of some that photographers really like to get pictures of.
Blackburnian. But Blackburnian's
Ah, I
gorgeous.
mean, it's hard to say the Blackburning's overrated. I think blue-winged might be overrated.
Whoa.
People get really obsessed with blue-winged warblers sometimes during migration, and they're breeders up here.
Oh, one we didn't really talk about is common yellowthroat. Probably
I don't even know.
underrated,
I don't even know
honestly.
if that's overrated or underrated.
I think underrated. And then it depends if you want to add vireos in there too. They're
No, you don't want to add vireos
warbler
because they're
like.
not warblers.
What about the ovenbird? Where do we stand on the
That's
ovenbird?
a warbler.
I know, but where do we stand on overrated, underrated? I think underrated.
I think slightly underrated.
Prairie warbler.
Ooh, I mean, prairie warblers around here are pretty rare. I like a good prairie warbler. They have such a unique song too.
It's cool. Yellow-throated warbler.
I
Overrated or
love yellow-throated
underrated?
warblers. They're so cool.
I'm saying
Underrated.
underrated. Worm-eating
Underrated
warbler.
on the yellow-throated.
Worm-eating warbler.
I think they're underrated here, but other people probably disagree.
Swainson's warbler.
Overrated.
Definitely underrated.
Overrated.
Pine warbler.
Underrated.
Oh, interesting.
Pine warblers are cool.
Palm warbler.
Ooh. So I don't think I even told you about this. I was last year down by the Milwaukee lakefront in, I think it was September, mid to late September, and I was just around this area that had these lawns. There was probably about 300 palm warblers on the lawns, just walking around, bobbing their tails and trying to catch insects. I've never seen that many palm warblers in one place before in my life.
Just get a video of it.
No, I didn't even have my camera. I wasn't there for
Bruh.
that. I was there to get some ice cream.
Pull your phone out.
I
Get
mean,
a
they're
little
tiny. It wasn't going to do any
300.
good.
There's 300 of them.
I was just kind of watching and observing and being like, whoa, that's a lot of palm warblers.
Yeah. And sometimes the warbler migration just it's popping. I know the phrase that you hate, but people love to say is the warblers were dripping off the trees.
Yeah, they just say it in such a strange way. Like, the warblers were literally dripping from the trees. And you're like, okay, dude, let's calm down. You had a little minor fallout that you found.
You seem so just upset that you weren't there.
Well, we experienced the jealousy of not being able to see something where everyone was raving about it in Texas.
Yeah, I guess should we include talking about Texas rarities like tropical parula in our warbler kind of deal and then fan-tailed warbler?
I mean, it's tough because there's also golden crown warbler. There's probably some
That's
other
true.
warblers I'm not even aware of that make it into the States sometimes.
Probably, but I
What's the
mean
other
those
kind
are
of
kind of
red
the main
start?
ones.
Isn't it like a slate something red start?
It's late-throated.
Slate throated.
Yeah. When you
So
start
yeah,
getting into all those rare, I mean Rufous cap warbler is
talk about
rare.
leaf warblers too.
It's a leaf warbler. Those
Or
the
maybe
European ones.
I
Reed
don't remember.
warblers.
Let me look actually.
Those are the ones that look the same apparently.
I know the European ones do. Yeah, I think leaf warblers are the ones that all look the same from Europe. Europe needs to just calm down with how it categorizes and names its birds.
I feel like a lot of the birds of Europe are shades of brown. It's kind of the same as the fish in Europe.
They're just shades of brown.
Shades of brown.
The New World warblers are wood warblers. So yeah, I think the wood
So
warblers are
ours
what
are
you're
wood
thinking of.
warblers then.
Yeah. Most of the New World warblers are arboreal, but some like the ovenbird and the two water thrushes are primarily terrestrial.
All right, here's something from the Cornell lab. Who's got the best warblers and why? Europe versus America edition. I feel like this has no chance of Europe winning.
Yeah. Is there any cool warblers in Europe?
So this article, this is from Gustav Axelson, says
I found it. The same article.
it says Europeans have a different opinion of people saying that their warblers are kind of like sparrows. Dale Forbes, an Australian, argued on 10,000 Birds last year that real warblers are brown and our warblers are a little more than silly canaries.
Huh. That just seems like a lot of jealousy right there.
It said, although it took only one wood warbler extravaganza at McGee Marsh this past May for Dale to reconsider this position,
Yeah.
he's
I
totally
told
just
you that was
jealous.
jealousy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because the picture is European warblers on the left, Arctic warbler, which is brown, and then on the right it has the Blackburnian warbler.
I really feel like any you picked were gonna be more colorful than the brown
Even the
ones.
palm
Even the
warbler.
palm, yeah. I feel like
Orange
palm
crown
is
can be pretty drab. Orange crown looks like it could be European.
maybe. I feel like palm is one that people normally aren't that excited to see.
It's kind of, you're excited to see it the first time you see it, and then after that, you're not that excited anymore. But those days when the warblers come in are really wild because I remember I made a video about this day. It was me and Spence and a couple of other people, and I don't even remember if Nathaniel was there. I think Nathaniel was
He
there.
was asleep in the car.
No, he was wandering around fully awake. Um, But it was a really good push for warblers in April, actually. And it was a really good push for migration in general. But we had so many different species, including Kentucky was along the lake. Um, what else
Didn't
was
you guys have
there?
a bunch of tanagers that day too?
Yeah, there's summer tanager was there. It was just a really good day in April, so you never know when you're gonna get them. And they come in sort of in waves. There's some that are earlier arriving and some that are late that are arriving, but then they kind of mix and match it sometimes, so you never really know what you're gonna get.
Yeah. I feel like those days are the most fun when you can just go to a certain place and not know what you're going to see there. Like when we were down at the sanctuary that one time and you guys had that cerulean warbler that our friend Sammy found that I didn't see, but it was
Yeah.
there. That was cool, even
We
though
had
I
to
didn't
go do
see
the
it.
Cerulean Warbler Redemption at Wyalusing.
We did, which was also fun when there's not a million bugs trying to bite you or just bounce off your face at any given time.
Yeah, that's brutal. But it is fun to go to places that you know the warblers will breed at because we went last year to a place where mourning warblers breed and we got a mourning warbler there and that was cool. So it's neat that there are places you can go if you miss them in migration. Some of
You're
them.
talking hooded, aren't you?
No, we found a mourning warbler last year.
Where?
You don't remember this? It was the same day as the cinnamon teal.
Oh, right.
Right,
I
right,
didn't
right,
even
right, right.
remember that. Yeah,
Ooh,
now
you
I do,
didn't
but
care at all about
I
finding
thought
a
you were
mourning
talking
warbler.
about a different day when we got the hooded warbler, when we saw that American woodcock. Was that on Global Twitch
Almost
Day?
every day we've seen American woodcock.
No, it's not. Was that Global Twitch Day that we did that?
I think that was Global Twitch
That was a
Day. That
pretty
was
solid
fun.
day. We got a
Good day.
Global Twitch Day is a holiday we created.
We invented it.
It's like a certain Saturday in May or the third something. I don't know. I gotta go look, but let me just look it up. But we
I
went
want to
out
say it was the
and,
23rd
but I think
or the 13th.
this isn't helpful. But we went out and twitched White-Eyed Vireo. Then we got a couple other things, which you can also check out that video.
It's nice to have videos from all of these experiences so that we don't just have to tell the story, so that we can just say, go look at this video. Trust us. You'll like it.
When I search Global Twitch Day, nothing about birds comes up.
What comes up?
Stuff about Twitch, the streaming platform.
Oh, I hope it doesn't try to start a holiday.
We declared Global Twitch Day occurs on the third Saturday in May.
Perfect.
So this year, it'll be the 18th of May.
Ooh, very good. Hopefully
So
there's
yeah,
something cool.
Saturday, May 18th, Global Twitch Day. So if you want to go out and look for something rare, that's especially a good day to do it.
What do you think it's going to be this year?
Dude, it could literally be anything. I remember we were kind of trying to figure out what we wanted to do that day, and White-Eyed Vireo just kind of made sense because it wasn't that far away. We also had Yellow-billed Cuckoo. We found a lot of cool stuff that
Was it
day.
yellow billed or was it black billed?
Thought it, maybe it was black-billed. It was
I
one of
don't
the
remember.
cuckoo
We'll have
species.
to go back and watch it.
It was a cool day though.
Yeah, and then we got Cerulean Warbler that day too, actually. It was,
And then Hooded Warbler,
yeah, it
and
was
then
a
an
really good
American
day now that we
Woodcock.
think
Yeah.
about it. There was this one day I remember during Warbler season where Chris Collette and I went down to see the fork-tailed flycatcher that was seen in Illinois. I think it was in Illinois Beach State Park, and it was, of course, there's a video about finding this bird too. There's never not going to be a video for the most part about these experiences, but it was this fork-tailed flycatcher that the fork was missing, the big feathers on the tail, so it just looked like an Eastern kingbird. So we ended up going to find that and got that one. But then while we were there, there was a big influx of warblers in Milwaukee. And so when I got to the place they were being seen, which was at oh, what's the park that I always go
Warnemont.
to? Warnemont. Yes, it was Warnemont Park. When I got to Warnemont Park, there was hardly anything. And so I thought I missed all the cool warbler stuff. And then I just switched to a different location, went to Weir Nature Center and had some great warblers, including a really nice experience with a mourning warbler. So it's funny because you can miss stuff that easily, but you can also refine some stuff that easily.
They're definitely in waves. You'll hit a wave, a little pocket of different warblers, and then they'll
Yeah.
be gone and be like nothing was ever there.
Yeah, I mean, you experienced warbler migration in the south, and you said it happens is it like a month earlier?
Yeah, I would say so.
Is
I
it
wasn't
significantly different?
the species composition. I feel like there are more birds in general. So, for example, on Grand Isle, you can go there and there's just loads of indigo buntings in one spot, and Kentucky warbler, hooded warbler, just tons of them right there. So I feel like in general, there's a higher number of birds normally on those Gulf Coast resting stops, but like Kentucky's a lot easier to see. Worm-eating warbler is a lot easier to see. I remember just walking through the woods there and finding, veery, like four blue grosbeaks feeding in somebody's backyard. It's just kind of they're all there hanging out. Summer tanager all over the place. So I feel like there's greater numbers of birds and the composition is different. Also, I did experience a little mini fallout. So it was actually I was birding this spot with mulberry trees. And so you could actually see warblers coming in off the ocean and then landing and hanging out and then rising and then going a little further down. So that was pretty neat.
Well, I imagine too that the birds in the south there would be a higher volume because I assume that some of them that nest more southern will just go to their nesting sites and then you have just fewer coming all the way up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to some degree, I think that's true. But just when you're on the Gulf, you're getting everything. It's their first time they can actually take a break. And I've never experienced the super fallout. Some of the stories I've heard of are crazy about what that's like, just kind of mini fallouts.
Yeah, I mean, you've probably seen the fallout on the ship pictures, right?
Yeah,
That's crazy. Just these boats out there that the weather must have brought the warblers down, and that was the first thing they saw they could perch on. So it's just a boat in the middle of a storm with all of these colorful warblers resting on the boat.
it'd be really cool to take a boat, anchor it offshore, and just turn it into a green space with a ton of mulberry trees, like a little warbler oasis. So if they did have to come down early, it was just tons of food and water and stuff where they could recuperate. That'd be really neat.
So are you suggesting making an island similar to how Dubai made their islands and putting a bunch of greenery on it specifically for, so you want to make new barrier islands for warblers
Kinda, yeah.
with a spring in the middle somehow of fresh water in the middle of the ocean?
I mean, I'm not saying no to it. I don't know who's gonna
Like an
fund it.
ambitious project.
That'd be pretty neat. It would probably you'd build it, and then the first year would just get hit by a hurricane. And it wouldn't exist anymore. But for the 1 year that it was there, I'm sure the warblers would appreciate it.
I'm picturing it just slowly sinking into the ocean like Atlantis did.
Did?
Probably.
I don't know. I didn't think we confirmed that
I
Atlantis
think
was a
we
thing,
all
is it?
assume Atlantis sank. I saw the Disney movie back when I was a kid, and that's how it went down.
I don't know. I don't know enough about Atlantis to comment, but I
I
am
see you need to do
surprised.
some research.
I'm surprised areas like Grand Isle, which is Louisiana's big Barrier Island that you can drive to that people live on, it got slammed by Hurricane Ida. And I can't believe it still is even there for the stuff that I've seen, the way it got hit. And there's a population of box turtles that lives there, and they survived the hurricane too. So things have some tolerance for surviving that stuff. If the box turtles can do it, the birds and the people can rebound too, but it's pretty wild.
I mean, I saw the devastation like a year after the Ida hurricane, and nobody had fixed a whole lot. So
That's kind of how the South is in general in those hurricane zones. A lot of stuff just gets wrecked and never fixed. That's why it looks the way it does.
I see
Yeah.
the South.
But
We were talking so highly of it with
it's
all the warblers.
interesting because when you move off the coasts, you will see areas that have the same architecture, but nothing's broken down. That's because they're kind of out of that hurricane zone.
I don't have anything to add to that. I don't know about the South, just like you don't know about Atlantis.
I don't know about Atlantis. If anyone has any comments about Atlantis, you can let us know below.
I really hope some people watch all the way through on YouTube and comment about Atlantis and what they know. We really need your wisdom on this.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to add about warbs?
I mean, we're probably going to get more and more excited as they come in. And hopefully we can take some time off of work and just go getting some warbs.
Well, we were looking at how many we've done a ton of stuff about warblers, like finding warblers, different types of warblers. There's the finding the rufous cap warbler. There's just a warbler watch. How many warblers can we find? I guess
Feels like you always need more.
we could ramp it up and do trying to find every single eastern warbler in the state in one day or something like that. That
I
just
don't know if
sounds
that's possible.
overwhelming though.
You
Because
could get some
we
weird ones
so
too.
except for like Swainson's, which one don't we get in the state every year?
I think we get everyone in the state other than Swainson's.
And has Swainson's ever showed up in the state?
I
I
don't know.
feel
I
like
can
it
check.
hasn't because I thought we were talking about that. It seems like something we might be due for at
Let's
some point
see.
because I think Minnesota got one, but I don't think we've ever had one. And I definitely have an appreciation for the Swainson's Warbler since I got to go out with my friend Garrett and catch one and check it out, take some measurements of it, let it go for his research he was doing about Swainson's.
Looks like in 1976 there was one in Dane County, and then it looks
Okay, it's
like
not
in
for a while.
2002 there was one at Bay Beach Wildlife Sanctuary.
Okay, never mind. That's
Apparently, they've made it into the state on two occasions only.
interesting. I think we're due.
And it looks like the one from Dane, it has pictures of a specimen.
Oh,
So I don't know the story on that.
I hope it wasn't like we shot it. Although I feel like
I
that's
don't know.
probably what happened.
Looks like there's some reports from Chicago area too. I would like to at some point try to bird Montrose Point during migration because that's supposed to be a really good place. That Point Pelee in Canada is supposed to be a really good place.
Yeah, I feel like the thing about Montrose is I just don't like driving through Chicago.
You have to go through Chicago to get there.
I think it's slightly north of it, but you're still in that area and it's a little ways down. Me and Nathaniel stopped there, but it was winter. There really wasn't much of anything to see. We just wanted to see what it was like.
No Warbs.
At Warbs, man.
Did you have anything else you want to say about Warbs?
I'm just excited about them. It's like makes it so much more interesting having all those brightly colored migratory birds coming up. So I feel like it's getting that point in the year when I'm getting pretty pumped about it. And I'm really excited about the Warbler quiz video we made. There's the Learn 35 plus Eastern Warbler songs that has, each one with a mnemonic device that can help you learn them that we've done. So I'd encourage people to check that out and the quiz. If you do the quiz and you do bad, you can do the Learning Warbler songs videos and you can check out all the other things we've done about finding warblers. I think one more question I have for you is what's your favorite mnemonic device slash one you find the most useful for warbler songs?
Hmm.
Mnemonic devices are just the things that you can say, oh, it sounds kind of like this, and it helps people remember.
So it's kind of funny because I remember the mnemonic device for black-throated blue warbler, which is supposed to be I am lazy. But whenever I hear that, it doesn't sound like I am lazy. So I remember, oh yeah, black-throated blue, the I am lazy one. And then every time I hear it, I'm like, what is that?
I think the one that I like after going through all of them was the hooded warbler. Sounded like Richie, Richie, I'm right here. Because when I listen to it, that is what it sounds like. I can't hear you at all.
I tried to whistle one for you.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, the Perula zipper. I That's always one where I
Zip.
hear it. And yep, that's Perula. The bee buzz and the bee buzz buzz for blue winged and golden winged.
The Kirtland's call is always really distinctive. When you hear it in the right habitat, you just know that that's what it is.
Although we did think we were hearing a Kirtland's maybe when we were hearing like a water thrush one time.
There's some that are similar to it, but when you're in those jack pines and you hear that, you know it's gathered Kirtland's.
Yeah. But yeah, excited about the warblers. Excited for you guys to check out the quiz and the other warbler stuff. Let us know what your favorite warbler is and which one you're most excited to see. Thanks for watching this episode of the Badgerland Birding Podcast.
Warbin time.
Warbin time.